Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, I appreciate you checking it out. If you're a return viewer, thank you for all of your support. Today I'm going to be installing a set of the Radium dual baffled catch cans onto my 2022 Subaru WRX. Now I had this kit for my 2020 WRX and I absolutely loved it. I even made an install video for those as well, and Radium actually reached out to me and asked if they could put that video on their website so that customers would have a nice how-to video, and I of course agreed. And so when I got my 2022 WRX, I actually reached out to them when I saw that they had made a kit for it, and I asked them to send one out so I could make a video for you guys. So Radium Engineering is sponsoring today's video by sending me out these catch cans so I can install them for you guys and show you how to do it. And of course, as always, I wouldn't be working with this brand if I didn't absolutely love their products, and I actually reached out to them to send me the kit. So thank you to everyone at Radium Engineering for sending these out to me so I can make this video for you guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. But before we do, actually, I just want to quickly explain the benefits of this in really short layman's terms. When you have a direct injection engine like what's in the new WRX and the FA20 WRX, it really tends to have a lot of buildup. You get oil sludge in the intake manifold on the valves, and that's why you see a lot of people walnut blasting their vehicles. So the sooner you can install an oil catch can or an air oil separator, the better. The dual baffled catch can was highly recommended from my tuner, Ron Watson at Fat Body Tuning. And of course, that is why I went with the Radium catch cans, and then I fell in love with them. They are absolutely incredible. So that's what we're installing on this one today. So this is a brand new kit for the VB chassis, and I'm excited to check it out, get it on the car, and show you guys how to do it. Now, Radium does supply some instructions with this kit that you can download online in a PDF file, and it includes a bunch of pictures that will also show you a nice install process as well. But I know sometimes it's nice to have a video that you can kind of look and see a deeper how to install. But when you open this up, you are going to get a metal bracket, your second metal bracket for your second can. You have all this hose. You got, of course, your stickers. You're gonna have all of your fittings, all of your hose clamps. You got some bolts and nuts for the brackets. And then our catch cans are going to be in here. Now, I quickly want to talk about these new catch cans because this is a new design from Radium. I promise this is the last interruption and then we will start the install, but I need to let you guys know about the new Fluidlock technology in these cans because it is very exciting and it's really cool. So in pretty much the history of catch cans, you know, they will catch the oil will go down into the can, and then it'll slowly fill up and fill up and fill up and fill up. And if you forget to drain the oil catch can, that oil is just going to keep coming and coming and coming. And then what can happen is it can literally just overflow. Or say you're at a track day and this thing's 3/4 of the way full and you're whipping your car around, you know, maybe you're doing an autocross or you're in the canyons doing a canyon run or whatever, and that oil is sloshing around in the can. There's a high potential that that oil could be sucked back up and reintroduced into the car's intake tract. And you do not want to do that for obvious reasons. With these new cans, that is completely eliminated because now they have that Fluidlock technology. And what that means is that when this can starts to get full, it will lock itself out, meaning that no new oil can enter the can and no existing oil can exit the can. That is a much better scenario than your oil catch can emptying itself back into your intake tract. So that is a very nice thing that they incorporated into that. It's just an extra safety feature in case you forget to empty your can. Of course, you always want to try to remember to empty it. I always empty mine every oil change. And of course, you have the Radium dipstick on the catch cans. That way you can keep track of the level without actually removing them and draining them. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the PCV side can. We'll install that one first, and then we'll jump up to the front and do the crankcase ventilation can as well. Anyways, we are going to start over here at the ABS system. We have 3 10mm bolts that we need to remove. We're going to have one down here. There's going to be one more on the bottom on the other side. And we have one more 10mm up top here. Once you have that bolt loose, make sure that you are grabbing this washer. Now we can take our new Radium bracket. We're going to slide this underneath the ABS line and loop it around the motor just like that. And we will put one of our provided nuts down on that stud and loosely install it. Do not tighten it down. So now we're going to install our bracket. We're going to put this hole down here on the bottom where that 10 millimeter came off, and then line this top one up and get the slotted groove over that one. And then we can reinstall the 10 millimeter nuts everywhere that we've removed them. And we can take one of our provided screws and start to thread it into that bracket. Once we have that tightened down to the bracket, we can actually finally tighten down our bracket. You want to be careful not to over tighten these just because they are on those rubber stoppers, so you don't want to damage the rubber bushings. So now we can grab our AN fitting here, and we do need to lube up this O-ring. So I'm going to be using just a little bit of engine oil. This is clean new engine oil. I'm just going to be putting a little bit of that on the O-ring to lubricate it. And then once we have that lubricated, we can install our AN fitting and carefully tighten this down. So now I'm going to position our can up underneath and get that lined up. And I'm going to take just a little bit of blue thread lock. I'm going to put it into one of these threads and start to thread one of our provided screws in there. And now I'm going to do the same thing 3 more times. Just put a little dab of blue thread lock onto each one of these screws and install them. After that, you can lubricate your fitting and start to thread that in using a 6 millimeter Allen key wrench. All right, you can see that's how it's going to be once it's tight. This will still be able to be moved. So now we're going to have to remove 7 13 millimeter bolts from the intercooler to remove it from the car. We're going to have 2 on the passenger side bracket here. We're going to have 2 more right here in the center. And then we're going to have 3 over here on the right hand side, 1 in the far back, holding this bracket on, and the 2 in the front. Keep these 3 separated from all the other bolts because these are shorter, so you want to remember the short ones go on the driver's side. So now we need to remove the intercooler from the charge pipe. All we have to do is pry up on both sides of this metal clip. And then we should be able to grab and remove the intercooler from the vehicle. So now on the back side of the intake manifold, you're going to see this hose going right beside your throttle body coming off the manifold. We're going to want to loosen up and remove this clamp. Slide that down the hose. And then there is a second one down here on the bottom of this hose. If you just follow the hose down through, it's going to be a little bit trickier to get to. Whenever we put the new one in, we are going to definitely reposition the way this clamp is sitting. All right. Now we'll have to grab this hose and twist it, usually to release it. The clamp is completely off down there. We're just trying to do that. So if you guys look, you can already see oil built up. So now we can take our hose. We're going to take this clamp off the back side. Oh, okay. Dropping stuff everywhere. Then we're going to pull this sheeting off, which might be a little easier said than done. Having a hose cutter would make this a lot easier, but I don't have anything like that, so I'm going to be doing this by hand with the trusty razor blade. Okay, so we don't have the best cut there, but that's what we're looking for. So now we're going to want to locate our Radium supplied hose. What we'd want to do is cut this hose exactly in half. So we'll lay it out on the floor and cut this thing, which is right about there. All right, we got to cut exactly in half. So now we're going to grab the 1/2 of the hose. We're going to take this barb reducer. The smaller end is going to be the one that goes into the radium side. So we're going to take some of our oil and just put a little bit on there so that this thing slides in. And we're going to push that in as hard as we can until we can't go in any further. Should look something like that when we are finished. So now we're going to take this small portion that we cut and we're going to take our other barb fitting. We're going to use the larger end and we're going to install that into the factory hose that we modified, one of the halves, the smaller half as you can see. Now we'll install one of our new hose clamps. We can take our original hose clamp and slide that one back on. Just put it there for now. Then we're going to grab the other half of our new radium hose and we're going to insert this into the radium hose. Of course, we're going to add just a little bit of oil on here again so that we can slide that in. Once you have that in, it should look something like this. So now we'll take our new modified hose and carefully wrangle this big thing down through here. We want it facing rearwards so that it does not interfere with the intercooler. We'll get this down over there and then we can re-tighten down our clamp. There you can see how that is set up. Okay, now we will get out our other new hose clamp. Get that ready. All right, we have that fully open. Slide our hose through there. Just let that sit for now. Then we'll take our barb fitting, put just a little bit of oil on that, and we will slide this into here. Then take our new clamp and release. Then we can take our other modified hose, slide that original hose back onto the manifold, grab one of that hose clamp, and re-secure it to the manifold. So what we'll do is we'll put both of our fittings on loosely. We are going to trim our hose. Okay, so the hose coming off the intake manifold, that's going to be our clean air. That's going to be our oil-free air that's coming in. And what we're going to want to do is plumb that into this fitting here. So we have quite a bit of extra slack here that we're going to end up cutting off. I mean, quite a bit. So now we have trimmed the hose coming from the manifold. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the new fitting and push that sucker in there. So after you've measured your hose length and you've installed your fittings, we can now thread these on. And we can tighten them down with a wrench. Again, using a aluminum wrench will probably help prevent any kind of scratching or marring on the surface of these fittings. I do not have one of those, so I'm just tightening it down with a standard adjustable wrench here, and I will go back with a little bit of black paint and touch these up if I have to. So now you can see how we have our hoses ran. We have the one coming off the intake manifold coming down underneath this line here and merging beside the one coming from the engine block, and then they're coming around and coming up to the catch can. So this is about how you want to have yours oriented so that they're not, you know, making contact with the intercooler and anything like that. So this should be a pretty good way to run them and they'll be out of the way of everything. With that done, we are ready to reinstall the intercooler. So go ahead and grab your intercooler. Line it back up in there. Make sure that the charge pipe is slid in all the way and the intercooler is sitting down on the throttle body all the way. Make sure these are pushed together really good. And then we can clip the charge pipe back on. We can start reinstalling our 13mm bolts. All right, let's see if we can't knock out the CCV side really quick. I am getting hungry, so I need to go inside and get something to eat. We are going to just loosen up these two pop clips and pop out the intake duct. And then we can remove the intake duct out of the car. Now we need to remove the two 10mm bolts holding the radiator fans into the assembly. And then when you look down your radiator fan, you're going to see a little control module on the front of the radiator fan. There's two connectors. Just push those in and pull those out. And then there's one connector at the very bottom coming out of the control module and being plugged into the other fan. On the driver's side, we're going to unplug that as well. Then we're going to pull straight up on this. We may have to move the hose a little bit. That was really easy. Now with the radiator fan removed, we have more room to get down to the charge pipe connection and this CCV hose connection. We're just going to pull out on that, just like that. And then this is the same on the charge pipe on the bottom here as it was on the top. We are going to pull each side out separately. So once you have the charge pipe and the CCV connection loosened, we can come down to this 12mm bolt that holds the charge pipe in and loosen that up. And at this point, if you have not done the PCV catch can, or you have done the PCV catch can and you reinstalled the intercooler into the charge pipe, you'll just want to pop this clip off again a second time. And then looking down here to the CCV connection on the turbo inlet, we're just going to pull up on that, and that should pop right out. When you come up top here, you're just going to pull this out. You're not actually going to be able to pull this up out of the connection. So here on the stock CCV connection, it's actually a barbed fitting. You're not going to be able to get that off. So we're actually going to have to put a slice into our hose to remove it. So we're just going to put a little slit into the hose, and then carefully pull on this. Just like that. So next we're going to have to do the same thing with the turbo inlet piece. So we're going to cut a slit into the hose. There you can see. So now we can take our turbo inlet fitting and remove the factory O-ring using a razor blade. I'm actually just going to cut it because it's very difficult to get this off. And then right where I cut it, I'll take my flathead. There it is. I'll replace it with one of the supplied O-rings. So we removed this O-ring and we installed the thicker supplied O-ring. So now we're going to do the exact same thing on this fitting here. A lot to try and get in here and remove an O-ring. So now we'll install our provided O-ring like so. So now we'll cut this hose in half, and I have measured it and it is exactly 5 feet. So we will go in 2.5 feet and then make our cut. All right, now we have our two halves. We'll take one of our new hose clamps, slide it down over one of the halves of the hose. We'll slide it into the fitting and then lower the hose clamp down on. And now we can take our hose with this fitting and sit it back down on there and push the clamp back in, make sure that the fitting is secure. And now we can reinstall the charge pipe. Be sure that your new hose goes behind the charge pipe. So once you clip the charge pipe back in place, we'll reinstall the bolt to secure it. Before we tighten that down, we will just make sure that this clips back into the intercooler piping. Now we can take the other half of our hose with the other new hose clamp, push this down onto this fitting, and release the hose clamp. So before installing your bracket, we can reinstall the radiator fan. Okay, so this part is going to be a little bit tricky. So we need to make studs basically to install the bracket on because there's no hardware here from the factory. So we have to take our 5mm, we're going to use a 5mm Allen wrench to get these bolts back and make studs. So, okay, I'm literally going to tape this bolt onto the Allen key with duct tape. I'm going to actually unplug this headlight plug as well. Get that plug out of the way. Wow, that is very tricky. Now we are going to thread on one of the provided nuts. And we're going to tighten that down. Going to work this down. The bottom one was a little easier to find. Okay, now we'll take the bracket and we'll line this up just like that. We'll put our nuts on. Now we're going to plug the headlight plug back in. All right, now we can grab our catch can, grab our fitting out of here. We're going to lubricate this O-ring. Now we'll thread that into our catch can. Okay, so now we have our 3mm Allen wrench again. We are going to take our can, install it like so. We're just going to put a little drop of blue thread locker. We're going to thread this in. Definitely put a little too much thread locker in that hole, but we'll wipe that off. Now we can tighten these. Then we're going to grab this fitting. Again, lightly lubricate the O-ring. Then we can grab this and screw it on with our 6mm. All right. All right, now we can loosely attach these fittings. So you can probably see here we have quite a bit of extra slack. So we're going to cut most of this off. I'm going to trim this to fit on there. So now we're going to heavily lubricate this with oil. We're going to force it down into the hose and then we'll screw it on there. Okay. Just like that. Now we'll thread this on there. All right, that's not going anywhere. Now we'll screw this one on. So we'll grab our intake duct, slide it back on, put our pop clips back into place, and we are finally finished. Well guys, that is how you install your dual baffled catch cans into your 2022 Subaru WRX. I'll leave a link in the description to Radium's website where you can purchase these for yourself. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. We'll see you guys in the next video.